What is going on, everyone? It's LFC Transfer Room here, and the window has opened. So, as you can guess, things have got busy at LFC Transfer Room, and we've got a couple of stories doing the rounds, a couple of people that are trying to steal our players, a couple of players linked to Liverpool, and I tell you what, we have pulled the ripcord on pulling back everyone from loan. Everyone's coming back to Liverpool. Nat, Owen Beck, I've forgotten his name. Williams, Carvalho. I mean, we're yanking everyone back into the AXA training facility. So today we're going to talk about a couple of transfer stories that have been doing the rounds. Anything you guys want to talk about, so please put it in the chat. If you're new here, like, subscribe to the channel. It's a fan channel, and LFC Transfer Room. We're busy in the January transfer window. And loan to Paul, as Jen says. Sharon, first time with us. Are you ready?
I am. Been quite excited to do this for a while, so happy to finally be on.
Well, we're going to start with the Jones to Arsenal story, Sharon, and I'll stay with you for this.
Yeah.
It's funny, isn't it? If you'd have said this before the season started, Arsenal want to buy Curtis Jones, half the Liverpool fan base would have been like, we'll drive him down ourselves if they pay this amount of money. We'll drive him ourselves. Now, I don't think there's a Liverpool fan anywhere that would sell Curtis Jones at this moment in time.
No, I don't think so. I mean, to be fair, I've always been a fan of his, so I'd never really want to sell him. But right now, especially after Monday night, I was at the game, so I've seen the ovation he got when he scored, and I think there's no chance he goes anywhere. And I mean, he's a local player, literally from Liverpool, about as Liverpool as it gets. So, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Arsenal have no chance getting him, and I can't see him even entertaining the idea of playing for anyone other than Liverpool.
Well, Jen, as always, thank you very much for the support for the channel. I think pretty much you have contributed as much as Curtis Jones earns per week. William is only on 15 grand a week at the moment. So really, should he be using this link to get himself a pay bump? And what would you pay him?
I mean, I think maybe not him personally, but I imagine, obviously, as every footballer has an agent, I imagine his agent is going to be looking at it and going, look, we're going to be using this Arsenal story at least during the negotiations as well. I'd be expecting a new deal for him in the next couple of months. I don't think we're going to be, or at least I'd expect us not to take too much time with it at least. And I mean, because it's technically 15,000 a week. I think he's supposedly on, isn't it? Or yeah. I don't know if it was confirmed or not from what was sent through or exactly through the group. But I think we'll be probably looking to triple, maybe even quadruple his wages, possibly. And obviously, that's just the base wages. And then talking about bonuses probably coming along with it as well, which, to be fair, he's thoroughly deserved because not maybe last summer, but in previous seasons before it, I very much had the Curtis Jones where I wasn't always the biggest fan of him. But the way he has adapted to just really setting the standard for the club, being able to press, like he's become a pressing monster. It's insane. And the way he's just proven how he is absolutely worthy of carrying the shirt and coming out and playing for it. Yeah, definitely. I think he'll be looking to quadruple his wages probably at this point.
Now, many of you, Kev is back tomorrow with Matty on Thursday. He's avoiding me, probably for the Kev TV stories and news that I've done. But Kev is back tomorrow, so make sure that you guys tune in tomorrow. Paul, one of the things we've seen with Curtis Jones is if you think about the two performances where we've done like countless shots, controlled the game, West Ham, the Newcastle game where Curtis Jones started, he really does just get us the ball back into attack, the ball back into attack. He does simple things very well for us at the moment, doesn't he?
Oh, yes. And this is one of the reasons why I'm 100% sure that there's no chance of him leaving. Actually, I think this rumor is not from the Arsenal side. I agree with William that it's probably coming from Curtis Jones' agent. And there's nothing wrong with that. Because when you look at Arsenal, for example, you have guys like Nketiah, Reece Nelson. These are fringe guys and they're making 100 grand a week. right? And then you have a guy like Curtis Jones, who is fast becoming one of the first name on the team sheet right now, and he's on 15 grand. I mean, yes, he has a contract, but I think he's kind of nudging Liverpool and to say, listen, man, I need some money. Because let's face it, Curtis Jones and Joe Gomez are two of our unsung heroes. These are the two guys that can cover multiple positions. Gomez can play anywhere along the back line, centre back, right back, left back. So is Curtis Jones. Jones can even play as a winger. And he is one of the few guys in midfield now that is actually finding himself occasionally in the box. Yes, we know Szoboszlai can hit it from outside, McAllister as well. But Jones is one of the only midfielders that I'm seeing here that is making himself available with that run in the box. So he is too valuable to even think of leaving. As I said, right now, even with everybody's 100% fit, it would be hard pressed not to have Curtis Jones in our starting 11, because as William said, he's a pressing monster. He's just always in the right position and he can pass. But most importantly, he can give us a goal. I love the guy and he's going nowhere.
I think, Sharon, we're seeing it in the chat. He's a Liverpool lad. He's going nowhere. No one believes it. William, I think, pretty much nailed it on the head when he said it's about getting a new contract, and he deserves a new contract. 15 grand a week is not enough when you've got, and Helior and Muse will have heard me rant about this before, when you've got Big Nat Phillips on 60 grand a week and you've got Curtis Jones on 15, there's something wrong. And it needs to be corrected quickly, doesn't it? And I think that's probably what this story is all about, correcting that error in his contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be. I mean, when you've got a player like him on 15 grand a week and playing the way he is, I think, it's just not fair on him, really. I mean, there'd be no, issues if we were to quadruple his wage. I think he more than deserves it. He's playing like a player who deserves it. And, it's about keeping him happy as well, really, because, as much as he is, as I said earlier, a local player, and, Liverpool lad, if we don't keep him happy, then, he might think, okay, maybe I'll be more valued somewhere else, and it's about making a player feel valued because, he can very easily stop putting in the effort he is if he doesn't feel valued anymore. It's as easy to stop it as it is to, kind of put the effort in that he is right now. So, we have to kind of do right by him as a club, because he's given us so much for that shirt, for that badge. And, it's about repaying that to him now.
Same situation with Queeve Keller, if I can just butt in here for a minute. Because you have Adrian on 60K a week, while Kelleher is on 10K a week. And that is just ludicrous. That's just ridiculous. There is no scenario in which any one of us want to see Adrian in goal. Right? But we signed him for 60K a week, and we have the clear number 2 and 10K a week. This is, I think, was one of the reasons why we're hearing rumbles about Kelleher wanted to leave. It's just not paid enough compared to what other guys in the team is getting. And I think we need to we just need to be fair to our players. We don't need to give them 100, 200 grand a week. But when you have a guy like Gavin Burke just came in, yes, he's talented, and 150K a week. Come on, man. We need to address these other important guys and give them a little bump. I think that's only fair.
Yeah, Harvey Elliott's probably on the peak of the young development salary. He's on 40 grand a week, and then you go to like your Joe Gomez, your Ibrahim Konates. They're on 70, 85 grand a week, something like that. And then you've got your first team stars who are 100 to 185 grand a week, which Van Dijk, and then you've got Salah, and Salah earns what Salah earns. Now, one of the weird reports that came out the other day was Salah's salary is about 350 grand a week, William. But actually, when you factor in Liverpool bonuses and stuff like that, he's probably coming close to £1 million a week. He's on an absolute bumper deal with Liverpool. And we're a very performance-based contract. But if you're on a 15 grand a week base, William, your bonuses can't be that much either, can they? So then even if they don't up his contract to, let's say, 100 grand a week like what Arsenal pay, if he's on 60 grand a week and he's playing week in, week out, he's going to be earning more than 100 grand a week because of how Liverpool do their bonuses and what they do.
Well, I imagine these bonuses are kind of based on certain percentages of what they get paid out from their base salary as well. So I think with Mo, it's a case of, well, he earns 350K a week per goal scored in a certain week or assist get. Because I'm going to be honest, my knowledge of the contracts in this part of the football side is where it just kind of vanishes. I don't know about the whole bonus system and stuff because honestly, it's just you read 3 different things depending on what source you read it from as well.
And we don't have to publish it. That's always part of the problem. It's conjecture based on what the salaries are in the accounts, but it is conjecture.
Yeah, but basically coming back to your point, I don't think from getting a base salary of 15K a week, even with bonuses, you probably won't even be making it close to 100K a week. Probably more like if he has a really good week, he might get close to the 50K. Maybe. And then that's probably, we're talking goal and assist as well.
Dribbling through the middle of that West Ham defence and just slamming one in.
Yeah, literally.
Now, just obviously in the chat, if you're new here, please like and subscribe. January transfer window, LFC transfer room is going to be really busy. But we're just going to go around everyone, as well as you in chat, a rating out of 10 for how likely we think Curtis Jones could be going to Arsenal. Paul, I'll start with you, with 10 being he is definitely going, 1 being no chance. Curtis Jones to Arsenal?
How about -5?
-5.
No chance. It's not happening. It's. I have a better chance of playing for Arsenal than Curtis Jones, and I'm a middle-aged man in Canada, so that just goes to show you.
And there you have it. Paul Lindo to Arsenal. Breaking news. Sharon, out of 10, 10 being likely.
I think I'm with Paul on this one. I think even -5 is a bit generous. I think you've got to go even lower than that. I cannot see that happening in anything. It'd probably be the most shocking thing to happen in a while at Liverpool.
He would have to have the Sacco level fallout with Klopp, wouldn't he, William? For you, out of 10.
I'm pretty much on the same with the boy. I'll give it a 1 just more because it's football. Crazy things can happen, right? But I severely doubt this is going to be anywhere near what will eventually end up happening. I don't see it happening. Then again, crazy things have happened. We didn't in Barcelona, they never saw Figo leaving for Real Madrid, and it still happened anyway. But these are very, very very rare occasions that do end up happening. So I very rarely doubt that. I very highly doubt this is going to be the case.
Now, Kev to Arsenal, 1.
Yes.
Tell you what, I will give Matty a 2 to being an Arsenal fan if Curtis Jones goes, because obviously Matty and Curtis Jones are all connected. But we're going to move on to the next the actual Liverpool signing transfer story, which is Morton Frendrup, which is not a player I'd really come across much. But before I give you your opportunity to sort of tell me whether you like the deal or not, I'm going to give you some stats about him, because obviously many of you will have heard of Morton Frendrup. He is 22 years old. He is Danish. He is 5'10", and he is an absolute defensive monster. To give you some indication of how good he is at defense, in tackles, he is in the top 1% in world football. Tackles won, top 3% in world football. Tackles in the defensive third, top 14% tackles in the midfield third, top 1% tackles in the attacking third, top 6%. Dribblers tackle, top 4%. Tackles and interceptions, top 1%. And aerial percentage won for a midfielder, top 3%. When it comes to passing, doesn't do much, but he just shatters play. That's pretty much his job. And at 22 years old, when you start to think about Endo, who's 30, and you think about Szoboszlai, who's got a bit of a tweak on his hammy, and you could move McAllister up, there's actually something to this potential opportunity of signing a young, energetic, defensive monster into this level, and Danish as well. We all know how much Danish people love Liverpool. Sharon, do you think there's anything to this one?
To be fair, it's not one I can see happening, but I definitely think the profile of the player is, something that we need to be after. I mean, those tackles numbers are, absolutely fantastic. And, to be fair, in a team where we have midfielders like Szoboszlai, like McAllister, you don't really need someone who's, amazing on the ball. You just need someone to win that ball back. And, he seems to be pretty good at that. And then just kind of, give it to the other midfielders and let them take over from there. And I also think just with the way that we play as a team in general, you do need someone who can kind of, play that safe pass like Endo tends to do now. It's not all about going up the pitch as quickly as you can all the time. Sometimes we just need someone who can kind of keep the ball secure, keep possession of the ball, calm things down. And, everyone else around him can kind of make up for, potentially his lack of ability on the ball. But, also at 22, which is quite young, I'm 22 myself. So, I don't want anyone saying that it's old. It's also, he has plenty of time to develop as well, on the ball. So there's plenty of upside to him now. And, in the future, there's definitely, room to improve him and, potentially have, a world-class six there for us, for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, William, I'll give you just some of the comparisons to Endo, and this isn't me saying that Endo's bad and this guy's going to solve it or anything like that, but tackle attempts, Endo makes 1.9 per game over the last 365 days. Morton does 4. Tackles 1, Endo does 1 a game, Morton does 2. Dribblers tackled, Endo 1 a game, Morton 1.7. Blocks 1.3, Morton 1.6. Pass completion, Endo 84, Morton 78. Progressive passes, Endo does 6 a game, Morton does 3.5. So again, you can see that Endo helps us progress further forward, but maybe in certain games where you've just got to really get someone to stamp on the face of someone like Odegaard or Rodri or Bernardo Silva, and Bernardo Silva again, because I'd like that to happen. There's some logic to having a destroyer, isn't there, as opposed in the squad, like the Momo Sissoko time.
Yeah, oh, good old Momo. No, but yeah, there definitely is. I mean, I think it's obviously as well been a talking point throughout the whole fan base on for basically a majority of us still thinking that we need another 6. Now, I'm not going to lie, I have been actually really impressed with Endo over the last couple of weeks, and that feeling has kind of gone away a little bit into it. I think the profile of the player fits perfect for what we need, or the one player that we kind of all feel is missing in our midfield still, which is that destroyer, the guy who just wins you the ball back. We don't really need him to do much else. Just win the ball back, give it to Trent, give it to midfielders, but just give it to any of the other players around you. And again, whether it's the profile that we're going to go for this January, though, is another question within it. But I think it would be a very good fit. It's someone who's 22. There's a lot of potential to work on there with. And I mean, if club likes him, I'm sure we'll be fine.
Now, Paul, Stephen asked this question, can Frendrup help this team now? And one of the other questions is, would it block Bajcetic's path to the first team? And there's a lot of talk whether Bajcetic is actually a 6 or an 8 or a transition type player from 6 to an 8. So actually just getting a specialist destroyer could actually just be helpful in the squad as a whole. 10 million is valued at. The probability transfer market give it about a 45% probability, probably because no one's heard of him or anything like that. But there's not many big 6s in world football at the moment. So I do think these new up-and-coming 6s, these early 20s that are breaking into the top leagues, is probably where we'll end up getting a 6 from, in my opinion. What do you think?
Well, I think the way to do it is for us to look for these gems at reasonable prices. I didn't know about this left back from Tottenham, Udogie. And Tottenham paid not much for him. And right now, I think he's one of the best left back in the league. So there are these gems out there. To be fair, I'd never heard about this guy before this morning. So, I don't have much of an opinion on him. But then it brings me back to Andre. These stats that you just read out, as far as I can remember, are very similar to Andre. Andre should have been that guy. Andre is not much more expensive. I see something about 25 million available for right yesterday. So and we were all over Andre. We were sure we're gonna get Andre, and then it just kind of died. So I am not too excited about another young player in that mold until somebody signs. And back to the question, Bajcetic is a guy that has been with the team for a while. The management knows him very well. They know what he can do, and I think there is big plans for him. My guess is that they figure that maybe we can, survive this year without much from Bajcetic, so to protect him. But because we have Endo as a cover, so next year we should be able to see a lot more from Bajcetic. So I'm not sure if another young six, um, destroyer type six is really what we need. I don't think he can help us this year. But on the flip side, if he's 10 mil, 15 mil, and he's really that good, then there's really no downside because you can't have too much good cheap players because you can always turn around and sell them on the market. But I don't know. As I said, I don't know much about this guy, so I can't really comment. If what you said is really good, then for 10 million, of course, why not? But I still believe that Bajcetic is the long-term solution in that position. And I think we can get 2 or 3 solid years from Endo. Yes, he's 30, but he seems to be a young 30. And I really like what I've seen from Endo for the last couple of weeks. So I am not too concerned about that 6th position right now. I think we should be fine.
Louis, good to see you, man. Let me know. Let me know who you're most impressed with so far this season in terms of the new midfield that's coming, Louis. Give me some insight. You're not doing watch-alongs or anything like that anymore, so now you're working in football full time. So give us some insight into who you're happy with. I think, Sharon, one of the things we do have to bear in mind is we have a lot of young coming through midfielders, so really adding more youth to it might not be the best thing for us to do, because if you think, Jones is young, Soboslai's young, Gravenberch is 21, Bajcetic is 19, McAllister's probably the second oldest. I ignore Thiago. I just figured he's injured. So at 24, so really, if you were going to sign a midfielder, you might want to get someone that's coming into the prime, that 25, 26, more than a 22-year-old, sort of that experience, because we do get a bit raggedy in the attack, and maybe we need someone that can sort of pick out that pass or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think, we definitely need to look at someone, in between the ages of kind of, Jones, Elliott and Thiago, kind of someone, who is in their prime, but also quite experienced as well. We do need that kind of experienced head in midfield at times. Just watching that Newcastle game on Monday, there were times where, especially for that first Newcastle goal, I do think, after scoring that first goal, we could have calmed things down for 5 or 10 minutes rather than kind of letting Newcastle back in. Having that experienced head in the middle does, allow us to kind of have that element of control. But also on the flip side, I think a lot of the young midfielders that we have, are quite experienced. I mean, Dominic Szoboszlai is the captain of his country. Alexis McAllister's, won a World Cup and, played a full season, few full seasons for Brighton in the Premier League. So, whilst they might be young in terms of their age, they're, definitely a lot more mature than, players their age tend to be. And, they do have that experience at, the high level. And, especially for Curtis Jones, he's been at Liverpool, a long time, made over 100 appearances for us. So, whilst they might be young in age, they definitely do have that experience. So we need to be careful and find that right balance. Don't go too young, but don't go too old. So we just need to find that sweet spot, really.
Yeah, and I guess there's always the question of, I was watching Trent do an interview today. There's the Trent in midfield discussion, which we're not going to do again today. The Trent in midfield discussion has been done to death. And I'm not going to do it until he actually starts a game in midfield again. But one of the areas where we obviously are weak, William, is left back. Robertson, now we're hearing February. Kostas is going to be probably season. Collarbone injuries are horrific. Gomez has played well there, but Gomez is also the backup for the right back. And there's a lot of risk there. Now, we've brought back Owen Beck, and Owen Beck is probably the only one from the loanees that is playing games regularly and was playing really well. I think he was at Dundee, wasn't he? He was playing quite a lot of games, playing left mid as well as left back. So again, that sort of fits with how Liverpool play because, fullbacks. Yeah. Everyone talks about Ignacio. I don't see Ignacio. I don't see why you'd spend £60 million on a reserve for Virgil van Dijk because they're both left centre backs and we don't play three at the back.
Why they didn't spend 40 million on him last year in the summer when his release clause was cheaper.
Yeah. So Owen Beck is probably the name of the loan recalls that comes to my mind as someone that's going to get game time. Anyone. But at the same time, you've got Scanlon, you've got other left backs. I don't know. Is he just has he been brought back for safety purposes? Hopefully, we don't have to play him, and Joe Gomez can play all the games.
I mean, I think it does kind of say enough about probably how Scanlon is viewed right now, because I mean, like the fact that both our starting left back and our backup left back are injured, and basically Gomez has his injury history as well, so. That is the risk, obviously, we're taking with. And, I mean, let's be honest, if Scanlon was obviously putting in enough of the performances probably in training and in the rare occasions that he has been able to play, I think Klopp would have had enough faith in him, in sticking by him and probably playing him a bit more throughout the season. But I think he's just probably been more impressed with Owen Beck's development. I'm assuming, again, at the same time, I don't know, I'd be lying to you if I'd said I've been watching Dundee this season, because I haven't.
What?
Yeah, I know, mate. Shocking. I know. But yeah, so I probably do think that Owen Beck has been recalled for that reason, just as well. And I mean, as well, because we need Gomez in every position. Like Matip's out for the season. If we don't get a centre back in, apart from Kwanzaa, Gomez is our other centre back option. And because from the looks of it, Reece Williams is probably going back out on loan, and Nat Phillips is probably going out. At least from what's being said now, we obviously don't know yet if that's going to change yet, if there'll be anything different in there. And then he's also a backup right back. So it is. I understand why we recalled Owen Beck. It's just more of like, are we just going to leave it at some of the recalls? Are we going to loan out most of the guys we recalled again, or are we going to get someone else in? Because we are technically a Joe Gomez injury away from being technically in a fullbacks crisis. And also, like, eventually, if then Konate gets a little injury again, or a knock where he's out for 2 weeks, then we've only got two centre backs. So yeah,
Paul, what he's talking about is we've got a player injured. If we get two more injuries, then we've only got two centre backs. So, I mean, we should be all right, really, shouldn't we?
Well, two defenders, because Gomez is also the backup for Trent, and also he's also the starting.
Well, you've got Bradley, who's back from injury. He played the other day.
Yeah, but
Curtis James played
like just like Scanlon, will he play? We don't know.
True. Is that the area for you, Paul? We need to fix.
My issue is we have some of these young players that I think we reach a point where we need to make a decision on them. Yeah. They're either good enough to be integrated into the first team or to be around the first team, or we need to sell them. Because we keep on having these guys year after year, sending them out on loan. Reece Williams, if we are looking to go into the transfer market to buy 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old players, right? And yet still we have these 18, 19, 20, 22 players that has been around the team for 3-4 years. Are they good enough? If they are good enough, then we should integrate them. If they are not, then we should move on from them. So, because to be fair, I don't know how to judge most of these young players because, I've been following them much because they're out on loan here, then they come back, not getting playing time. So, I mean, what are we doing with these young guys? As it relates to the left back situation, Joe Gomez is just a stopgap. I don't want to see Joe Gomez on the left playing left back too many games because he's too important in the other positions. He's a right back when Trent is in midfield. He's our centre back backup. So I don't know. This Beck guy, I think we'll definitely be using him in the cup games. I wouldn't be surprised if he even line up against Arsenal next week or this weekend, because I'm pretty sure the team would prefer to put more focus on the Premier League games rather than even the League Cup and the FA Cup. So as I said, we need to make a decision with a bunch of these guys. We have about 6, 7, 8 of them just sitting there on loan, come and go. If they're not good enough, get rid of them. That's my rant.
Now, I said this last week, and none of you were there last week, so I'll say it to you this week. The signing I said that I would make this January is Kyle Walker-Peters, because he's 26, he's English, and he can play right back and left back. And to me, that would just cost like 16 to 25 million, and that solves problems and gives us security everywhere. That would be where I would go in terms of signings, because he does play both left back and right back. Southampton, I said they're not in the title race. They actually are in the title race for the Championship, so they might not sell him straight away. But could you stop a player that's come through the Southampton Academy from having a potential to win the title? Probably not. So I think there's probably a deal that could be done if we wanted, but there's no news. There's no noise about that. That's just this is what I would do if I was in charge of Liverpool. But Sharon, Paul's right. We've got Nat Phillips, not good enough to get into the Celtic starting lineup, which basically means you're not going to be good enough to get into the Liverpool squad, really. Reece Williams, unable to break into the starting lineup. Fabio Carvalho, unable to break into the starting lineup, but probably still young enough to have some development and another try. Owen Beck was in the starting lineup and was doing very well for Dundee, but how do you quantify that in the Premier League? Probably needs another loan at Championship or Premier League level to solidify it, a bit like what happened with Harvey Elliott. Like, of these loan players, and I'm probably missing a loan player, of these loan players, should January be focused on selling them, generating a bit of money, then potentially just reinforcing the squad with something that we need? Like, who would you get rid of? Who would you keep?
So, I think it's very unlikely that we actually managed to get a club that wants Reece Williams. Unfortunately, he's just not, he's not good enough. He can't seem to get a game anywhere. So, with him, I think a loan is probably the best option. I think with Nat Phillips, kind of loaning him out just seems to be pointless now, because, he's at that age now where he just needs to, find a club to, essentially kind of get his career back on track. I don't think loans are doing him any good. I don't think they're doing us as a club any good, because, he's never going to be good enough to be a regular starter for Liverpool or even a squad player. I don't see the point in keeping him around. In terms of Owen Beck, I think, kind of our hand's been forced in that situation where we're going to have to, potentially keep him around, at least until kind of towards the end of January, where, maybe Andy Robertson starts coming back in and we can get another loan deal for Beck. But, I think he's around, at least in the short term. And I think for Carvalho, I'm a massive fan of his myself. I do think he has a future at Liverpool, but I think he does need, another loan spell, whether it's a year or 6 months, just to kind of get some minutes, get that development, because he's a brilliant player technically, and he's got, all the tools to be a top player in the future. But, you can't have a player sitting there, watching the team play. You've got to have him out in the Championship or in the Premier League, getting some vital minutes. So definitely loan him out and, find a place for him in the squad for the future, really.
What about for you, William? Who do you think we could even get any? Well, I don't think you can get any money for Reece Williams. I think he turns like a freight ship. He's just not quick on the turn. Whereas Nat Phillips, you should have been able to get 10 million for at peak of interest when we qualified for the Champions League, and for some reason we gave him a 60 grand a week contract and then just loaned him out everywhere again.
Because I think it was more to do with the fact that we kind of mishandled the transfer negotiation for a sale at him at the time. I think we demanded something straight after the 2020-21 season when we had Williams and Phillips as our duo that season. I think they slapped a price tag on him for about 18 to 20 million pounds, if I remember correctly, where at the end of the day, they did okay for us. But I mean, as much as we love what they've done for the club, we all know that they are unfortunately limited footballers. They're probably going to get to a certain level and probably not going to peak much higher than that. And I think we should have just probably, instead of being stubborn with the price that we wanted of 18 to 20 million, I think probably if enough were at that time of about, which I'm assuming at the time, probably around 12 million, 13 million probably was offered for him, we should have taken that. Because I think at this point now we're getting to the point where, as well, because his contract's up in 2025, I think, if for both of them, if I'm correct. So that also just kind of puts their value down. So I think right now we'll probably only be selling them for about, if we're lucky, 5 million to 8 million, due to them already just having 1.5 years left on their deal.
The problem, Paul, with selling someone like Nat Phillips is he's on 65 grand a week. And what championship team pays 65 grand a week?
I get that, but at the same time, just having him around, we're paying the 60 grand a week. So even if we have to cut our losses and say, you know what, we'll give you some money to go away, or we pay 50% of your wages. The point is, if he's not going to play for us, he's useless, right? To us, the money is down the drain, so we can't take back the contract. But if the guy is, if he at his age, if he can't break into our reserve team on our bench, when is he gonna? So we have to cut our losses and move on, and find somebody else who can play to take that spot. The only one among these young guys that I think the club is really excited about is probably Ben Doak, right? He seems to be a player that will be with us for quite a while. Other than that, a lot of the other guys, Cade Gordon again is one of those forwards that I really don't see the talent in him. I don't know if I'm missing something, but everybody says that he's talented. But every time I see him play, I said, where's that talent? I just think we have some of these guys that we need to make a hard decision on. If you're good enough, then we will nurture you. Carvalho needs to be nurtured because he is talented. But at least half of these guys, I think we need to do, tough love, sorry, but we just need to move on from them. That's just how I feel. There's point in having these guys just hanging around with very little chance of making the first team.
I think sometimes it can be a little bit difficult though, Sharon, when you take the story of Serge Gnabry, who was Arsenal youth, couldn't get into the team. They sent him on loan to West Brom, thinking he'll break into West Brom, he'll do really well, and he was shocking, stunk the place out. Couldn't get into the West Brom team, got sent back to Arsenal. Everyone was like, well, his career's over. He can't even get into the West Brom team. Ends up being one of Barcelona's key players. And I think sometimes it clicks, doesn't it, for players? Sometimes it takes time for them to learn. And for me, Fabio Carvalho is that player. He's learning at the moment. He had a good season with Fulham, but he's learning how a top team should work. And I think he looks out of place at times. But there's always the potential with some of these players. But Big Nat's 26 now. It's not potential anymore. You should be a fully fledged player. Reece Williams isn't quick, and he's not going to become quick. And you can't play a high line for Liverpool and be slow. We've probably got the fastest defenders in the Premier League if you really went through it. So there is enough data to make some decisions on these players, isn't there, Sharon?
Yeah, I mean, I think at times, us as football fans, need to be more patient, especially with young players. A lot of the times we're asking, for a 21, 22-year-old player to, kind of be a world beater, but that's not always possible. I think we forget how young those ages really are. But as you said, with Nat Phillips and Reece Williams, I think those two, we've seen enough, and with Nat Phillips' age as well, we know they aren't good enough. And I can't see them, being world-class players elsewhere either. I mean, it would take a lot for something like that to happen. It would take a lot for them to even end up at a club as big as Liverpool again in their careers, to be completely honest. And I think with someone like Carvalho, though, there's definitely, more than enough talent there to actually, unlock his potential. Even if it takes a couple of years, I think we should be patient because he's definitely good enough to be a Liverpool player in the future. You look at what he can do on the ball, and it's clear to see the talent's there, and technically, he fits right into that squad. He doesn't look out of place. I think the only issue with him really is his decision making and physically, just his lack of strength, and at times how he uses his body as well. I think he could be shielding the ball a little bit better when he's dribbling or when he's got the ball at his feet. And those things can definitely be worked on. So, decisions need to be made. But I think with Carvalho, we definitely still have time. And what else goes wrong, a player like him will still hold value 2-3 years down the line. So, I feel like that's a relatively risk-free one.
William, I think about this. I think about Ben Doak. He's just got a serious knee injury. Think about Bajcetic, and everyone's like, "Oh, he's going to be the second coming. You just need to give him time. You need to give him time." But he's been injured now for 18 months, and that's serious in a key development period of his time, of his age, and that could create him a whole series of problems moving forward and stuff like that. So there is a real risk that we go, Ben Doak will make it, Bajcetic will make it. Well, actually, there's a chance that neither of them do now. This is Liverpool Football Club, the top 1% of the top 1%. And if you get one player from that youth squad, from probably 16s to under 21s, that breaks into that first 11, that's good. It's not. There's not many, is there? There's Trent, there's Curtis. That have made it.
I mean, you've definitely got a point. I think as well, though, like what Sharon said about how young the players are and like how we need the patience with them as well. It is a point that is very true in it, because even if you look at someone, for example, just as like Harvey Elliott last season, a lot of us had the debate last season of like, is he really a centre mid? Should we be playing in there? We think he might be working better as a cam or as a right winger. And it turns out he can play a centre mid and a right winger, and he's boss either way. Like, and it's fine because he's really shown it this season so far that he is able to take that step up. And often that is just some like things that happen with these younger players coming up. Not everyone's going to be a Trent. Not everyone's going to be coming through into the first team at 17, 18 and are just going to nail everything they've been doing it coming into it. Like, and it varies per player, because I even remember in the preseason of last season, the first time kind of when Bajcetic started playing in the game, I remember watching those preseason games, and we didn't do well, by the way. We lost like 4-0 to United, and the other results I don't really remember at that time. And but I remember every time watching Bajcetic going, "Wow, that's a player that we've got a player on our hands here. We can really do something here with him." And right now, seeing that as we've only had him in the first squad for a little amount of time, he's just been injured throughout it. I'd almost say we can afford maybe even the luxury of just resting him this season, just because it's a growing related injury, and it's something that seems to be taking up a lot of his time to really properly recover from. I'd say just do it, because even again, apart from Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones is probably another one as well. Curtis Jones burst through, then it just kind of, along with injuries, along with other things, it kind of stagnated a little bit, and now it's completely back again. So it just needs time with it. Time will tell from it. You can see from the ones that truly really have the potential to be something special, you can often see it a bit earlier, but there's others that can just all of a sudden burst out of nowhere by just keeping working at it, making sure they work in training every day, they improve on their skill set, and they become world class anyway. So only time will tell, unfortunately. It's a very boring, politically correct answer, and I wish I could give something more controversial, but it is what it is, unfortunately.
I wouldn't say he was back because he's played a total of 72 minutes certified. And if you total up his calf injury, his abductor injury, and his back injury from the age of 18 to now, that totals about 18 months. Yes, he's had little periods of 2 or 3 games or 72 minutes as this season's been, but you work to get back and then you injure something else. You work to get back and you injure something else. This was the whole Michael Owen problem. Kept getting fit again and then he'd injure something else and it ruined his hamstrings. Like, that's why he didn't have a long, he got used too much as a kid. Now, we're going to finish with a January transfer window focus. And I'm going to get you to think about it. So I gave you mine earlier. Carl Walker-Peters will be mine. I would get Liverpool to go out. I would sign Carl Walker-Peters. I think he solves the problem, and he sees us through till the end of the season. I'm going to get you to pick a position, pick a player, and justify why Liverpool should sign that player in this January transfer window and how it solves a problem. Chat, I want it from you as well. We'll react to some of yours as well at the end, but pick a player Liverpool should sign this January transfer window. No, I don't want any of that Mbappe shit, because that's not going to happen. I want a realistic player Liverpool should go out, sign, and it will help us fight for all the different trophies that we're in for at the moment. We're in FA Cup, semi-final of the Carling Cup. We should get to Dublin, top of the league at the moment. Who is that player? Paul, I'm going to start with you. I'm not going to put the pressure on Sharon straight away on the first three.
I'm going to give you two. And we're not talking about 60, 70 million players. I'll be talking about attainable players here. I like the left back that plays for Fulham, that American. His name just keeps slipping me.
Robinson.
Yes, I like that guy a lot. And I think he solved a number of problems. One, he's an out-and-out left back that can defend. He's very quick. And is to Robbo. Of course, he's 3 or 4 years younger. And also, by having a guy like that in the team, we can go back to our original balance, where we can have Joe Gomez, kind of the floating player who can play right back, centre back as needed. So he's a guy that could start right now with Robbo injured. As a matter of fact, I think he's even a better player than Tsimikas. So he is somebody that I'm not sure how much Fulham would want for him, but I'm thinking maybe 30, 35 million. That's a guy that could help us right now. If you go to the Championship, there's a guy that plays for Leicester, named Dewsbury Hall.
Oh, yeah.
He's a player that I've always liked. One is run about that perfect 25, 26 age. He's left-footed, which we need that kind of balance in our team. And he can score. He's an attack. He can play attacking midfield. He can also play as a six, even though he spends most of his time, in the middle of the park. But he's a guy that should not be too expensive. He has some fair bit of experience and can help us right now. These are the kind of signings we need to look at, because we're not going to spend 100 million on a player in this window here. So, but there are players out there that are attainable, reasonable price, that can come in and help us right now. Because when you sign somebody in January, especially where we are right now, you are looking for a player that's not going to break the bank, but can come and help you this year. So I think Anthony Robinson as a left back is probably even more critical for this year than, say, a left-sided centre back, because the critical need right now is for out-and-out left back. So these are the two players that I think are attainable and that would help us this year.
I think Robinson seems to be getting a lot. There's a few saying him Carpe, because obviously he can play centre back and left back. Sharon, we'll come to you. Who are you gonna?
So I've gone for Bournemouth player. I've gone for Lloyd Kelly. I think it's a bit of a left field shout, because it's not a player that we've really been linked with. I mean, we were when he was at Bristol City before he joined Bournemouth, but I think in terms of kind of what we're looking for in terms of a left back that can play centre back, he's perfect for that. He's pretty solid defender, good with the ball at his feet, and then in that left back position, I think he would do a pretty good job for us. And it's not going to be too expensive and too unrealistic. He's a player that I know he's had his injury issues, but he hasn't been playing much for Bournemouth. So I feel like we could definitely tempt Bournemouth with an offer. I just think his profile is really good as well. I enjoy watching him, and one of my best mates towards Bournemouth, so I do keep a close eye on him. So he's a player I've seen a lot of, and it's not a player I've seen us linked with. But he's a player I do really like. I think defensively really strong. And I think especially with the way we play with Trent, bombing on down the right, in some games where we need that kind of, insurance on the left side. If Andy Robertson can't play, he's someone that can kind of, almost play as like a third centre back, especially with how wide Konate tends to go as well. So he does offer that kind of protection on the left side, and also, he can go up and down the left side as well, no problem. So, yeah, I definitely think it's not a player we've been linked with, or many people have mentioned, but he's, a player that I'm a massive fan of.
He's played 95 games at centre back, 75 games at left back. It's definitely a player that plays both roles. He's English, so again, solves the potential problem in future if you've got foreign players and stuff like that. There's estimated value of about 16 million. So again, you could probably get him for about, transfer market estimated 16 million. So yeah, I see a 25 years old. So there's potential there. That seems like a good outside the box one. That's almost as crazy as my one. William, are you just gonna you're just gonna pump 75 million at this, aren't you?
Yeah, I am. Of course I am. No, I mean not really willingly, but I mean I'm looking more at a dream scenario than me realistically seeing the room and making a decision right now. And imagining that I have the 75 million to spend, I would spend it on Hincapié because I think it would solve both our potential problems in depth at centre back, and he can also play at left back, like genuinely play at left back. Because I know a lot of these left centre backs now are kind of being like merged into like, oh, they can play left back as well, but they get positioned there, but they don't really play necessarily very well as a left back. And Hincapié does, at least in my opinion, for it. And it gives us the flexibility as well. I think it would give us the flexibility to not always stick to our same 4-3-3 system with Trent inverting and kind of a fullback having to go makeshift into a three at the back. We can actually, instead of having Trent inverting, we can just start into the midfield and have the potential to play three at the back by itself by having Konate, Van Dijk, Hincapié. So that would be mine. But I know if it happens, it would happen in the summer. It wouldn't happen now in January because Leverkusen are in a title race themselves. So I don't see how they would obviously be doing, but I don't see how they would be selling them to us. But you asked me which one I want, and that would be the one that I want to solve all of our problems right now because I think that's where it needs to be addressed.
Hincapié has played 70 games at centre back. He's played 36 games at left back. He's also played 7 games as a left midfielder. So it does demonstrate that sort of the same as what Sharon said, which is Lloyd Kelly. It's just a better version. No offense to Lloyd Kelly, but one's playing for by Leverkusen under Xabi Alonso. The other one's at Bournemouth, playing for whoever Bournemouth's manager is. It's just gone out of my head. But anyway. Yeah. Whatever you say.
Lloyd Kelly is an interesting one because I think he's out of contract come the end of the season. So he should be very reasonable priced if he only has 6 months left. And I remember reading that he was unwilling to sign a new contract extension. So that's an interesting one that I think we could work.
Yeah, I think there's real legs to it in terms of if they wanted a stopgap solution, because you wouldn't say to him, you're going to be the starting left back. You'd probably still start Joe Gomez, but you'd probably give him games, wouldn't you, in terms of a chance. He understands the Premier League. He understands how it all comes together. My only reservation with Hincapié is the fact that he is South American, and after every international break, we play at 12:30. It seems now, so that's just another player on the flight, and we might have to get a bigger plane.
It's the same as Moises Caicedo's age, and that's why. But apparently not.
Jamie, you said Ko Itu.
Itakura.
Yeah. I have seen him linked, but I don't know much about him. Do any of you guys watched him?
No, I haven't really watched him. I watched a couple of highlights on YouTube. Just usually when a player's linked to us, I always go and check him out. And I rewatched one of the Japanese game in the World Cup where he played. As I said, not enough for me to have an opinion. He's a right-footed centre back. I think I can play as a six. But Japanese players seems to always leave everything on the pitch. They work really hard. They run forever. So, I would not be opposed to a player like him. But no, I don't know much other than that.
Now, the other one that comes up a lot, Certified talked about, was Zubamendi, currently valued about 50 million, playing for Real Sociedad. Showing that he looks a hell of a player. 24 years old, Spanish, broken into the Spanish national team, seems to be the understudy to Rodri, which everyone thinks Bajcetic is going to become, but some think he's going to become an 8. No one really knows where he's going to end up at this moment in time. Would be a good option.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's a bit unrealistic because, he is a, Sociedad fan, and, he's turned down multiple approaches from other clubs. Barcelona really tried, and, I know Arsenal have been linked with him, but, never really made their move because, he is, just wanting to stay at Sociedad. And, in a way, you have to respect that, a player wanting to, turn down big clubs to play for the team that, he supported growing up, team that he loves. Quality player. I've seen quite a bit of him. Really like him as a player, but when a player wants to stay at their boyhood club, not much you can do about it. It's similar with the Curtis Jones situation with us. We were just saying how he wouldn't leave Liverpool. So we can't sit here and begrudge a player for wanting to do the same as another club. I think that Itakura is a bit more of a realistic option. And as you can probably see from my wall San Minamino shirt, I do have a soft spot for Japanese players. So, he's one I wouldn't turn my nose at if we were to get him in.
It's culturally, isn't it? I'm a big fan of Japanese players in clubs. You see them at the World Cup. They're always getting positive press in the World Cup because they clean up the stand afterwards. It's just the whole team culture just seems to work very well. And obviously I watch quite a lot of rugby as well. Japanese rugby team are just exactly as Paul mentioned. They're not the biggest. They're nowhere near the size of like South Africans and Australians and stuff like that, but they work non-stop, relentless, and they just throw everything at it. And we've seen that with Endo. Endo got no pre-season with Liverpool, got brought into the team, playing completely different type of football at the bottom of the Bundesliga. That is a big adjustment to go to the top of the Premier League and suddenly have to be more progressive than defensive. And look at him 6 months in, he seems to be adapting to the challenge. And there are many players, I put it in our group chat, that never got the opportunity to play at the top level and probably could. Endo is almost that player who actually is a top 6 level player because he's demonstrated he's good enough to be in Liverpool's team, who potentially never got an opportunity to play in a top half team, let alone a Champions League team, let alone a Champions title fighting for team. So it's really interesting when you start to think about it. A couple of people saying Andre Ignacio, stuff like that, the ones that we've been linked with. I think there's going to be a lot more rumours flying around. There's going to be a lot more players that we're going to be linked with. Wayne Rooney might get fired from 2 more jobs before we make a signing, but there's not long to go. Thank you very much.
Before we go, what's the chance we sign nobody? 50%?
No, we'll sign somebody. We always sign somebody in
Okay.
January.
Yeah.
Always sign
Okay.
somebody. It's just, it may not be who we expect. Gakpo, we signed last year. Everyone went ballistic because everyone wanted a midfielder. Everyone threw the toys out the pram. And I'll tell you what, he nearly got us in that top 4 the way that he was banging the goals in and stuff like that. So he really did his job, didn't he? So maybe someone we least expect. Maybe it's an Elise. Maybe it's someone more attacking that can play the little clever through ball. Maybe it's a defensive midfielder so we can move McAllister further up. Maybe we end up signing a left centre-back so that he can play no games because who's going to get rid of Virgil van Dijk? We don't know, but we will be here when we do know. Thank you very much, Sharon, William, Paul. This is LFC Transfer Room. If you're new here, please like and subscribe to the channel. We go live every day at 7:30 and anytime anything major breaks in the transfer window. So make sure that you're tuned into the channel to keep up. Thank you, everyone, for getting involved today. Thank you, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. Take care.